Done deal.
All right, this week we're going to be talking about self-efficacy and self-trust. As you can see on the board is the definition of self-efficacy. Can somebody read it, please?
Believe in one's capabilities to accomplish goals.
That's right. Simply put, it is believing in your own capabilities to accomplish the things that you set out to achieve. That is not something that comes easily to those of us in addiction recovery. And I think because maybe some of us have tried to quit on our own and we couldn't do it. And so that kind of established or maybe even reinforced an existing idea that even when we want to do something, even when it's the right thing to do, we're incapable. Or maybe somebody lied to us and we believed it. Or maybe we've been lying to ourselves and believing that. The truth is, all of us here can not only just stay sober, but we can also enjoy that sobriety and be more than happy with it for the rest of our lives. That's true. I don't know if you want to believe that or not, but I do. And so far, it's been great for me. I haven't regretted my own recovery at all. I know if I were to relapse, I would probably regret that. And who knows if I would make it back. I don't even know if I can survive a relapse. So I prefer to stay sober, and not just stay sober, but find enjoyment and fulfillment in my life. But in order to do that, I have to continuously challenge myself. Part of self-efficacy is proving to yourself that you can do those hard things, those difficult things, and maybe even fail at times, but still not give up. I strongly believe that human beings are designed to love learning. Because when we're kids, we're like little sponges absorbing all the information, and we're like little mockingbirds repeating everything we hear, mimicking behaviors. When we're little, we love learning, right? That's how we grow. But something happens to us at certain points in our lives, whether if it's when we're teenagers and we become complete full-blown narcissists for a little while, or as adults. Sometimes people get stuck in their ways. For whatever reason, sometimes it's hard for grown adults to continue to challenge themselves to want to learn new things. You know, that saying goes, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I really believe it has more to do with being stubborn than anything else. Maybe sometimes people think because they're at a certain age that nobody has the right to tell them to do anything different, or they're just not inclined to explore anything new because it's humbling. I don't know what that problem is. I know that in my own life, I was just focused on certain things, like the criminal lifestyle, my addiction lifestyle. And even though there were options for me to learn other ways to live life, I was just set in this direction. This is what I was going to do. This is what I believed in. So I was fully invested. I just wanted to do at least that as good as I could do it. But now I see things differently. Now I understand that in order for me to truly enjoy my life and experience the freedom that I desire, there's some new things that I need to incorporate into my day-to-day existence. I can't be committing felonies anymore, trying to make a quick buck. Can't be hanging out with criminals and people that are committing felonies themselves. I got to stay out of toxic relationships, all that stuff. I got to stay sober. Those are all things important to me now that I value, that before it was different. If we can embrace that same curiosity and that same excitement about learning that we had when we were children, I think we can all advance very quickly when it comes to our recovery and just living our lives and progressing in general. It's when we get hung up on the negative possibilities or the negative aspects of that temporary condition of things being difficult or things not working out the way we want it to work out. That's the part that we have to accept and realize that if we're going to learn something worthwhile, it's going to take time. It's probably going to be uncomfortable, might be a little awkward. You might experience some disappointment, some failure, but it's all about your perspective. For some people, though, it's difficult for them to utilize self-efficacy or build on it because being a failure has become their identity. In other words, their mistakes in their mind defines who they are. And so what's the point of even trying? Like I said earlier, if somebody tried to get sober and they weren't able to do it, then they assume, well, I'm just going to be a dope fiend or an alcoholic all my life. It's just me. It's who I am. Somebody who's been prone to domestic violence or toxic relationships or is just a mean, hateful, spirited person, and they just lean into that and like, this is just me. This is who I am. That's unfortunate because you and I are the ones who determine how we operate and conduct ourselves in this world. And there's no natural law that exists that declares you are stuck with that kind of condition. These are matters of choice at the end of the day. Right now, I think everyone here has an opportunity. If you're free from the chemical dependency, maybe not the obsession, but at least the physical reliance on substances, if you have detoxified your system and now you're here and you're trying to utilize these tools and implement them so that you can continue to live your life free from that addiction cycle, which is a form of enslavement and self-harm, ultimate self-destruction. Now you're in a position to take the driver's seat in your life. You're not hijacked by an addiction right now. There might still be some lingering effects. There might still be some cravings or maybe even some obsession, but those are things that can be reversed and remedied if you're willing to put in the effort. And so when it comes to self-efficacy, trust and believe that you can start practicing it here and now. By challenging those cognitive distortions, restructuring and reframing your thought patterns. Also, challenging yourself to do those things that either you're not used to, maybe you've never tried, or just seem difficult and uncomfortable. Such as participating in these group processes, participating in your one-on-one therapy with your therapist, going to the outings, going to the gym, waking up at a certain hour, being prepared and ready instead of doing things at the last minute. Those are all ways that we can start to prove to ourselves, and this is what it really comes down to. You and I proving to ourselves that we can do what we set out to do. At the end of the day, it's you versus you. It's me versus me. I'm not competing with anybody else but myself. And so you have to see it that way as well. Either you will be the number one cheerleader in your life, the number one supporter in your life, the number one advocate in your life, or you might be the number one hater in your own life. Your own number one enemy. So I recommend, if we're all in agreement about wanting recovery, and not just for a little while, but maybe for the rest of our lives, like long-term, sustained recovery, it's important that we begin loving ourselves, forgiving ourselves, and not identifying with our past or our mistakes, whether if other people did us wrong, and maybe some of us have been told to think certain ways about ourselves. I know that was the case with me, having an adverse childhood and experiencing various levels of severe abuse and neglect. My mind wasn't programmed correctly. So there was some maldevelopment there. And so as an adult, it was hard for me to develop self-efficacy because I was in constant pursuit of what I had been missing as a kid and seeking it from external sources such as the validation, the comfort, the nurturing, the approval, the acceptance, the so-called love and respect, which were all counterfeit. None of it was real because the only places that I seemed to get it as quickly as I could was from the wrong sources. Toxic, narcissistic, predatory, psychopathic people. They're the ones that will easily try to give you the reward on the front end. But it's not even the real thing. It's just a fake front. But I was eating it up. I was like, yeah, give it to me, give it to me. And wanting to continue to perform, to please other people, but never really thinking to take care of myself. So I was very willing to sacrifice my well-being, my freedom, my life, whatever it was, just so I could maybe get a little pat on the back, a little attaboy, thumbs up, or some chick that at least claimed me as her man and I could claim her, even if she was sleeping around and cheating on me or whatever it was. I'd rather have somebody than have nobody because I didn't know myself and I didn't like the person that I thought I was. If you want to try what worked for me, here's how I did it. First of all, destroy your perception of yourself that you had during your addiction or any time leading up to it. Just demolish it. Annihilate it completely. And view yourself as that innocent, pure, worthy human being that you were when you were still in your childhood developmental stages. If you can view that inner child and that part of you that is pure, that is innocent, you can see that there's someone there worth saving. And you still are that person, you're just a little bit older. And it's important to connect with that inner child and reconcile with yourself. And also, recognize that whatever happened to you wasn't your fault. And even if you made bad decisions, that still completely wasn't all your fault. If you had bad examples or bad things happen to you, kind of created the susceptibility. And this is why you did what you did out of desperation. A lot of us were just in survival mode. We were trying to cope the best way that we could. But these things ended up being more problematic. But the problem was not the drugs and the alcohol or the toxic relationships. That was our attempt to solve deeper issues, right? Now that we're clear about this not being a viable solution to the problems, we have the opportunity and the wisdom to know maybe it's time to look for alternatives. And this is great position to be in. You've got experiential knowledge about what doesn't work. Now it's time to explore what might work. First of all, loving yourself will always be the key. Unconditionally, without waiting to perform to yourself, to prove to yourself that you're good enough to be loved. Just love yourself right now wherever you're at, despite anything else that you may have held against yourself. And if you can't think of any time recently that you've been able to prove to yourself that you're capable of accomplishing a goal, go back in time and think when something was difficult, even if it was something as simple as learning how to ride a bike, learning how to swim, getting your driver's license, something, anything, even if it's trivial, simple. You can go back in time and you can recall when you did something that you weren't an expert on in the beginning, but eventually got pretty good at it. Because none of us are born into this world knowing how to do everything perfectly. We don't. And even as adults, we can continue to learn as we get older until we die. There's always room for growth. But the beautiful thing about being a human being is that we can start out very awkwardly in trying to do something and learn something and eventually be really talented and good at it. How does that happen? By persistence, by not giving up. I remember when I first started drawing, it was out of necessity because I was in prison. I was 17 years old. No one was sending me money or putting, you know, sending me packages or anything like that. So I had to figure out a hustle. I had to figure out a way to get what I needed, my deodorant, toothpaste, and soap. That was the first thing that I needed. Just hygiene stuff so I wouldn't stink. So my Sally, who was a lifer, he put me up on game, and he's like, look, I got all these patterns. He had big folders full of patterns of cartoon characters and shit. He's like, look, if you just take these patterns and trace them onto a little cardstock paper and color them in or whatever, you can sell these for like $1. People will give you $1, like 4 soups worth. Back then it was 4 soups make $1. Soups, top ramen was currency.
No, it's 1 soup.
Damn. Really?
$1.09.
Damn. Damn. Shows you how old I am. And so that's what I did. And I couldn't draw. I sucked at it. But I would just follow these little patterns of cartoon characters. Then when I wanted to make more money and draw other things for people, or people asked me for specific things, I would try, and I would get frustrated because it wasn't coming out the way I wanted to. I'd get pissed off. Sometimes I'd crumble the paper, I'd rip it up, throw it away. But here's the thing. In my mind, I knew that I needed to continue to learn this stuff because I had a need. I was like, nobody's going to take care of me. I'm not going to be one of these guys that's just asking for a handout on the yard. Like, I need to be self-sufficient. So I was determined. And there were times I wanted to give up. There were times I was like, man, this shit sucks. I suck. I'm not good at this. It was frustrating. It wasn't fun. But eventually, I got pretty good at it. And now, decades later, I tattoo at a professional level. And I can do portraits and photorealism, and I'm well-versed in all these different styles and genres. Now when I tattoo, it's very enjoyable. It's almost therapeutic. I zone out. I get into a very zen, kind of meditative place of peace. And I'm just going with my process. And I know it takes time. And I can sit there for 6, 7, 8 hours tattooing somebody. And I love every moment of it. I don't get frustrated. How does that happen? It happens when a person doesn't give up on something. People think they'll look at the drawings or the artwork that I do, and they'll be like, man, you must be a natural artist. You must have been drawing since you were a little kid. And I'm like, no, I wasn't a natural artist. That's the thing. When somebody does something and make it look easy, it's because they've put in a lot of work. There's thousands of hours behind that. What you're seeing is the results of all the effort they put in. And this is how it's got to be for all of us in life. If we're going to continue to pursue our potential and whatever it is that we can achieve, it's going to take a lot of work. And we're not going to get the reward on the front end. You're going to reap the fruits of your labor when the harvest comes in. But first you got to start sowing some seeds. And you got to tend that garden. You got to make sure that you're ready when the seasons come in so that you can get that harvest. If you give up on it midway through, you're not going to see it. You're not going to experience the benefit. Sometimes that's what happens to us too. We'll start something, we won't finish it. That's not self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is when a person has that dog in them. They're resilient, relentless, and have a tenacity for getting what they're going after. And they're not easily deterred. It's not a person who's like, oh no, that's too scary. Oh no, that's too hard. Or I can't. Or they won't let me. Or you guys are making this difficult for me and you're making it impossible. That's not a person that does that. It's the complete opposite. It's a person who is like, nothing's stopping me. No one's getting in my fucking way. And even if there's a wall in front of me, if there's a giant in front of me, I'm going to figure a way through it. And that's what it takes. And we all love those stories, right? The underdog, the comeback, all those stories of, and when we're watching a game or something, right? Or a fighting match, and you see the guy's on the ropes or he's getting knocked down, but then at the end he wins. And everybody gets hyped up about that. This is what we all can become. The ones that people counted out, but they spoke too soon because we're not done. It's not over for any of us. And what it's going to take for you is to dig deep and find that heart inside of you, that heart of a champion that you have. Because you have tasted loss, you have tasted defeat, and guess what? You can still get back up. But you got to be willing to and confront whatever challenges, whatever adversities, whatever obstacles may come, because that's how life is. Life is about challenges. It's about difficulties. There's going to be times where you're hurting and you're sad and you're disappointed, or you get angry. Things are not going in your favor. People don't understand you, or people even try to sabotage you, or things like that. But if you are aligned with yourself, it doesn't matter what happens, what circumstances come. If you're well attuned and you have emotional maturity, you will know that your feelings are your feelings and your thoughts are your thoughts. You take ownership over those things, and you also get to decide what you do about it in terms of your behaviors and your actions. It's never the case, especially for an adult, that, somebody else or something else outside of you provoked you, and so now you get a thought, now you got a feeling, and that automatically produces an action that you're not in control of. You just had to do it. Whether if it's relapsing, killing somebody, smacking somebody in the mouth, popping off and saying some shit that you shouldn't have said. Like, that's unacceptable. As adults, maybe when we're kids and we have no ability to control ourselves, we're very impulsive. That's one thing. But as adults, no. It's unacceptable. But you have to be the one to tell that to yourself and remind yourself of these things. Like, at the end of the day, we're all going to have ups and downs. But the one that has self-efficacy is the person that, despite anything contrary to them, especially even when things are challenging, is when they rise to the occasion and they smile rather than faint at what it is that they're confronting. And you're not a coward if you have a hard time facing adversity. That doesn't mean you're a coward. It just means maybe you haven't learned really what's within you. You haven't tapped into it yet, but I'm telling you, it's there. It's there. It's all about a perspective and your state of mind and how you view yourself. And the best way to build that is, like I said, by proving to yourself that you can confront these things and you can overcome them, and being willing to push through whatever is in front of you. As long as you know the outcome is going to be rewarding in the end. And being willing to delay that gratification. It might take some time. It might take years to accomplish a goal. But as long as you continue, you're persistent and you don't give up, in the end, the reward is yours. It's yours to have. And you'll continue. And here's the thing too. When a person has self-efficacy, they continue to seek out these kind of things. They continue to want to challenge themselves. They continue to want to learn. It becomes like a sport. It's all about perspective. Some people are like, I can't do this, I can't do it. I just want to fucking get high, I just want to get drunk. For other people are like, hell no. Let me tackle this. Let me get after this. I salivate at these kind of things. Right? You can do that. When we get back, we're going to talk about the different sources of self-efficacy. And I have them over here up on the board. We're going to expound on those a little bit more. And I also have some reading material just to further embed that into your mind. But let's take a 15-minute break.